that's my contact information. I'm the Department of Local Affairs, which is a state office. And I'm actually funded through a grant that I have to fill out for. I was just hired in February. I didn't know I was going to fill out a 26-page grant application in October for my job, but I did, and it's funded through gambling revenue. So I'm 75% paid by your hard-earned scratching and all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. Well, I don't technically gamble. My wife doesn't let me, so the buck literally stops with me. You guys wondering what happens? Okay, next slide. So your Main Street district is a unique place, right? I love this sign on the right. It says, "There's no place like this place anywhere near this place, so this must be the place." And it's true. So next to the children on the bottom left, that's my hometown of Poto, Oklahoma, which is a fur trapping community way back before the Louisiana Purchase and stuff. And then it has what you think it would be a Native American name, but it actually is a French name. That's where I grew up. Of course, Meeker on the upper left. Just a few different pictures. I think that's lions on the top right. Okay, next slide.
You'll have to turn on all the amps.
You need to turn them on. Okay, so this is essentially Main Street in a nutshell. It's historic preservation-based, community-led, meaning you guys, downtown revitalization. Meaning you get what this place is. You get that it's really the heart of town. And what we do is we essentially help you, ferret out the really cool things about the architecture, character, and really champion local ownership of this place. That's in Buena Vista, which unfortunately we just found out this last week they're going to be cutting the Main Street program in the city, but which that happened to you guys not too long ago too. But they have some incredible resources too.
What was the reason that Buena Vista's cutting us?
I have no idea. We just found out from our program director there that her position was going to be terminated at the end of the year. That's all. That was what she was told in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, hello, hello. Is it on now? I'm afraid of these little guys. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk to.
There we go.
There you go.
All right, cool. I don't sing. I really don't.
Yeah.
You can. You wouldn't want that. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. No, but I think we all realize that. Okay, so historic preservation is my part of the program. I'm the architect for the state program. We have two other positions. One is actually vacant right now. We'll be hiring it anytime. She left about a month ago, unfortunately. But and then Gail Langley, she's the coordinator. So it's a 3-person team. There's a specialist, a coordinator, and an architect. So it's a skeleton crew. Historic preservation, though, if you just think about it, is what you can touch. And we'll get back into preservation in a bit. But a history about Main Street is in 1980. The National Main Street Center was established by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And they just saw that things after World War II had gone into like suburbanization, strip malls, things like that, being more automobile-centric. And traditional downtowns were dying off. Like we were having, instead of upper floor offices downtown and boarding houses, we were having pigeon motels and stuff. It was literally happening all the time. Since 1980, and I think Colorado was one of the initial pilot state programs, which was super cool. And it's gone through a variety of different organizations, right? And unfortunately, it's at the Department of Local Affairs now, which actually has some money, so that's good. But there are over 2,000 communities across the country. So if you guys chose to join, which it sounds like you're well on your way, then you're going to be one of those. And so there's this large network, and that's just really important to know. And then in 2013 to 16, there was this refreshed Main Street approach that we'll go through in a little bit. So this is just essentially showing the structure. There's the National Main Street Center that's in Chicago, kind of all over the place really. And then there's Main Street America, and then that's the one in Chicago. And then there's us, which we're one of about 40 more coordinating programs. There are a couple that are either town-based, like I think Orlando, Baltimore, I want to say Boston. They have a coordinating program like the state of Colorado's coordinating program in their city because they have so many Main Street districts. maybe Washington, D.C., I might be wrong about that one. But then there's one county in Michigan. It's like where Grosse Pointe is. If you guys know the movies, like very wealthy part north of Detroit. Oakland County, Michigan is a coordinating program. It's just kind of far out there. They have all this money. They have their own architect. He's pretty cool. We hang out every year at the conference. But so just know that there's about 40 programs like ours, but most of them are state-run. Not all of them have an architect. There's about 15 of them that actually have a full-time architect. So it's cool that History Colorado funds my salary because they see historic preservation as an important enough thing in Colorado. So the guiding principles, there's 8 guiding principles. This is for Main Street in general, like capitalizing on your existing assets. Like we'll help you figure out what that is. And like how do you like really emphasize the importance of history and the physical assets you have. Things about change and quality. Of course, there's things about all these too, like change doesn't happen overnight, right? So it's all about this inchworm process of like little incremental changes. And also that you guys are in charge. We're really just here to offer some support, but you guys are the ones that are actually going to make this happen. We'll do our best to give you all the tools that you need to make it happen, but you all are the ones that are heading up the process. In the Colorado program, there are 3 different tiers. So each tier, from candidate to designated to graduate, which we only have 3 graduate communities. Right now, it's Brush, Steamboat Springs, and Lake City are the 3 graduate communities. And they do get some higher monies and things like that. And also, but they've also built a more sustainable organization through the steps that we ask them to do to achieve different levels. So that's something you can kind of set your sights on, that it's not really just a one-stop thing, like, oh, we're in, great. No, there's like this process to really establishing the program and making it long-lived. And right now, this is the map, and it's kind of a little bit cut off, but there are 20 main streets. The colors, and this is on our website, so please check that out. There's a lot of great resources on the website too. So candidate's the first level in yellow. And I say levels, but don't think of it that way. This is a network. And like just last week, I was tasked with setting up we had our Main Street Managers Summit. It was in Montrose, so all the managers went out and we met up. And go ahead and go to the next slide. And you'll see that there's, oh, I'm still not the one I wanted to do. That's all right. We can go back one slide if that's possible. So from all over the state, the managers came together and we did some training for them. You'll see the little gray dots. Those are affiliate communities. Those are communities that are like putting their foot in the water and kind of deciding, do we have, we're helping them gradually, but we're not really like, we don't provide full services to them because they haven't committed through the city actually saying, yes, we support the program. So they're not like, since it's kind of we support local governments, the Department of Local Government, through Department of Local Affairs. I know there's a lot of acronyms, but that's what we're in, is Division of Local Government. So we literally work with your city, but at the same time, you're an agent of, the city, Berthoud, helping develop business and all of those things, ties to the city's missions, just like the chamber does. The chamber is closely tied. I would assume you go to city council meetings and things like that sometimes, and yeah. So everybody's in it together, and that's really what this is about. And so thinking about structure is something important, especially since this is where you guys are. You're not really sure how this is going to look, say 5 years from now. But know that, well, a little bit about myself. So I was the Main Street architect in Oklahoma for almost 7 years before coming to Colorado. So it was this totally providential thing that we were moving, and then the job opened up. And my buddy Tim, who had the job before me, he's like, oh yeah, Larry, you should apply. And I'm like, oh, cool. So the one thing that I was probably the most, competent thing I was probably going to be the best job for me to get was that job. So it was pretty cool. And in Oklahoma, most of the programs, actually all the programs, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, were structured as 501c3s, just because that's the way it was. That's the way we set up the statewide program. But we didn't have grant money like there is in Colorado through the agency. It was in the Department of Commerce, and literally there's 6 staff, so a lot more staff, but it was our services. Like we had a business development specialist that would help people with business plans, and an architect, that was me.
and different people that help with promotional events and setting up Facebook pages. And so we would provide service to the program directly, but there was no money. And it's just a completely different kind of government. They didn't put value as much, I don't think, in preservation, which is sad. The chamber-led in Colorado and there's only, I think, one or two 501c3s. I know Steamboat is. Maybe I'm trying to think who else is. It says over here Lake City, although I think they've moved on from something else since this slide. So there's some examples on the right of the different towns and how they're structured.
Is this after they've reached, I saw your different levels, yellow, red, and blue. And blue means done and sustainable on their own. And so they became a 501c3 sustainable on their own. Like, when you said you have a process, at the end when you're done, they're sustainable. Is it sustainable as a 501c3 or like, I'm not following?
No. So 501c, so the idea of moving through the tiers in the organization from candidate to designated to graduate, that's not really tied to how you structure it. This is at the beginning.
Okay.
So, yeah, but there's benefits to being a 501c3 because you can take tax deductible contributions.
Right.
In which that's really important, but it's also hard to become self-sustaining in that way without having some kind of a bequest or something, and that doesn't mean that, like we require kind of a minimum of the city saying, yes, we want this program and we're going to invest some of the revenue from the town. And usually it's 25% is kind of the minimum. So even if it was a 501c3, it would still be a requirement through an MOU with with DOLA, my agency, that would say, we're going to help fund this because we believe in it and we want the help. And so for all these, that's the same thing. But there'd be a different, with the chamber, that works really well in some communities. Sometimes the town just handles it all and it's somebody full-time on staff. You have to think about keeping someone on staff. You have to, figure out what that's worth, and at the same time, benefits are important sometimes. And so sometimes maybe the town and city position is really good. So they all have their different, DDA, that's Windsor, and they're doing some really pretty powerful things. They have a lot of money going on up there. I see similar development pattern here, so I'm thinking maybe there's something in the water that you could lasso that, because they're spending $20,000 and up for facade grants for like any business downtown. If you have a street, 25-foot section on the street, they'll give you $20,000 to update your facade. I mean, there's a little bit of match in there, but it's mostly money that you can take, but you have to do certain things in a certain way. Go to historic preservation. That's where I can kind of help a little bit. Okay, next slide. Okay, so overall in the state, there is IRE. Well, okay, this is not overall. This is you guys. So you'll have a board of directors. Then we would have an assumed Karen here as the staff person, and she would actually be kind of not only the liaison to the state program, but the liaison between the board and all of the volunteers. That's the key operative word with Main Street. It's grassroots, and it's everybody really wants to see the town thrive and see the downtown become a special place where it's like the third place you go. It's not maybe the fourth place. It's not church. It's not home. It's not work, but it's what you do otherwise, right? And that's what we all want. Okay, next slide. So services and like what you would get for that. So as a candidate community, there's this mini grant pool, and we have consultants that can come and help with a variety of things. Training a board retreat, actually physical improvements to the downtown. It's just this wide variety of things that you can get refunded. Like you want to do something, you tell us what you want to do it, we put your name down, and you have a budget of $2,500 starting out to do that per year. And we always advise you to use all of it. Then it's $5,000, and then it's $10,000, depending on which tier you're in. And it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but honestly, for some communities, they like really come up with some cool things to do with that money. And they can get matches going, and they can do some other things. In any case, one bad thing is I haven't changed the slide scholarships because we've had so many communities, and we needed to put some more money towards mini grants. That's only $2,500 a year, but what that is for is that's to fund travel to conferences and things for you or your board or anyone. The national conference, which will be in Seattle this next year, which is always a fantastic learning opportunity. Always learn. There's like 5 tracks or something going at one time, and it's all really cool stuff that you could bring stuff home with. There really, has anybody been to a national conference? My time? All right. Anything about that that you think was particularly memorable?
Bringing through a fire hose. I mean, there's so many things going on at that conference.
Right.
Very, very good.
Good. Okay, so then there's even more money with the additional consultant services pool. It depends on what your needs are and where you are in the tiers, because we want to help elevate you into the next position. So if you need organizational support, that's where we might want to focus. We wouldn't say, oh, you guys are ready for a streetscape plan, you know, or something like that. You've kind of done a lot of that anyway, so don't worry about that. And I apologize, this is not my normal presentation. I usually talk about buildings and a lot of stuff. This is, you'll have to bear with me through some of these, please. Technical assistance. That's basically us coming out or us hiring someone to provide specific assistance. Like this last year, we did the thing called Project Pickaxe. It was Gail's brainchild. You know, it's all about mining for those nuggets of gold in every community. And we hired like the best Main Street branding expert in the country, along with Matt Ashby, who's the director of Windsor DDA, actually, to go around the entire state and perform kind of revisioning and rebranding, looking for those like little nuggets for every single Main Street program. And we just wrapped it all up at the summit this last week. It was really pretty powerful. And most of the communities, I mean, probably like 75% of them have like found a lot of value in that, in what they provided in just like a 2-day boots on the ground and then some follow-up calls and a whole new press kit for Andy material. And anyway, so there's some pretty cool things that we try to do. I have a list of projects that I'm working on, a set of design guidelines that would be like a model design guideline for the whole state, for Main Street District. Thing on building energy efficiency for old buildings, like how to do the right upgrades. It's something that we're hoping to do in the next year.
That's actually huge, because with technology in old buildings, that's a huge problem, like City Hall, and older, that's where expensive is upgrading for efficiency, technology, and, well, honestly, safety with the, oh God, all the chemicals they used back in the day. So like, that's a huge expense. So how, like, I'm trying to look at how you, this is my first like venture into, right now I'm just having
Well,
a
so,
mind
like,
explosion, but
So I'm imagining a tool that you could take and it'd be like an app or something, and you could put in the square footage and the stories and the age of your building, and you'd get the energy intensity usage of that typical style of building, with or without insulation, with so much glass, and it'd just be something you plug numbers in. We're trying to keep it simple. And it would just give you like this projected thing based on ROI of here's how much it would cost and here's the payback on all the major things like roof insulation, which is huge. Windows is actually really low on this. Anyway, that's just one. That's one.
yeah, we
thing.
could talk on that thing, but okay, sorry, keep going, sorry.
So resources, those are things like that we developed. Our website, again, please check that out. There's tons of webinars and things that we've recorded, and also some really cool resources that are already done, that are there. And we try to make things as evergreen as possible. So this is a little bit more on like what I do. This was a little sketch based off that picture of the Belvedere Theater in Central City. The city owns it. It was one of those things, they got it for like back taxes or $1 or whatever. And they want to make it into a public space again. So helping them kind of just with a quick picture. And it's so funny because I went to one of their board meetings and they had made t-shirts out of that sketch. And they were selling it for $10 a piece. And it's a city, you know.
Yeah.
They have a really, I think you guys have it tough in any way. Don't think that that's actually a really hard place to be in terms of there's no retail. It's just like, what do you do? So everybody's got their own unique challenges in the network too, and you can help each other. And that's the cool thing about this brain trust that you guys you develop together as programs. That's really the powers in the network. And so along the lines of historic preservation, which Main Street in a nutshell is economic development that's based around quality historic preservation. If you have good old places that are cared for, then they're gonna be cool. They always are. And those are the places people are gonna want to visit. And so what we do, and one thing I do a lot is I help work with community officials, local volunteers, about the value of historic preservation, and then just a plethora of topics on this. Believe it or not, it's not just. It is kind of the dark corner of the architecture world. It's like it's not glitzy and new, but it's like the best thing. I mean, it has history. Everything is well built. So there's so many cool things to talk about. This is a book. I gave it to Karen earlier, but it's online as a PDF on our website and on History Colorado's website as well. I strongly advise you guys to pursue, if you're not a certified local government, which I don't know, does anyone know if you are?
You used to be.
Well, if you stop reporting, somehow they like nip it in the bud pretty quick after 6 months or a year. They say, oh, you got to reapply. But there's non-matching money that's grant money. It basically, CLG is a program through History Colorado. This book talks about so many important things like how you set up a historic district, how you do design guidelines. It's really an amazing book for as thick. It's only like that thick. But CLG is a program through History Colorado again, and it's federal money for historic preservation in the form of the Certified Local Government Program. It's for every state. Not every state institutes it as well and rolls it out as broadly as Colorado, but there's non-matching grant money for any kind of preservation-based planning. Just really a lot of, if it's a publicly owned building, then you can get so much stuff done through that program. And it elevates your preservation ethic.
Wait, if it's a publicly owned building,
Mainly, or for public projects.
what is that definition?
Well, City Hall probably,
Right.
The streets, any kind of study regarding the public space, like the downtown area, anything that is in the public good.
So Berthoud has a historic preservation.
Yes.
And then one time they used to have a CLG. Was this the same CLG?
Yeah. And that's part of it, is having
Probably
a
still out.
preservation commission and an ordinance, and then however much you police that, like actually having a certificate of appropriateness for downtown buildings and a review commission review, that's kind of the highest level. They don't require you to do that, they just require you to come in here, and they don't make you have strong teeth as the city. But it's actually pretty neat if you can get that slid in right before the building permit.
And we got a pretty large grant, 10 or 12, with the Historic Preservation Commission to do brass plaques on the old historic buildings. We had several districts that we had buildings that have a nice brass plaque on them. That was
Nice.
funded via that CLG
And that was through the
program.
CLG funding, so plaques and marking, historic sites.
Cool.
Yeah,
And
like-
then with a historical blurb on it.
I'm not doing it justice. There's like a lot of different things you can do with that. So there's a lot of things in common. And I just really strongly advise you to, if you have things that don't quite look right, like we did a little tour before. Well, we did a tour before, and we were about a block off of the main.
Like Massachusetts.
Yeah, Massachusetts. And there's some cool buildings over there. That could be such a cool block. You could even maybe close a portion, not rip it bollards or shall keep buildings within a certain way, and there would probably be a design guideline. That's the only time that, and that's really in the public good. And if they're well done design guidelines, it will actually help you elevate the value of your property. So when you need to replace a door, let's consider a wood storefront door like would have been original instead of another aluminum one or whatever. So it's those kinds of decisions. And maybe it does cost a little bit more, but it's also about being in it together. And then having the incentives too, where it doesn't really cost more. It kind of helps her, the Main Street organization helps her somewhat. But it's only honorary at the state and federal level. Like, so if you're a National Register district and you're listed on the National Register and your building's like this awesome contributing building and you want to put vinyl windows in it, you can, as long as the city says that you can.
I think we have one building in Berthoud, the National
Which building is it?
the museum.
Museum, okay.
Black Sage.
Old Black Lives Matter.
Well, so I just wanted to clear that up. So like going for these historic designations, state and district designation and things like that, those are very good. And as a CLG, you can actually get the state tax credit for rehabilitation and the city can assign it. You don't have to send it to History Colorado and let them review it. If you pass a resolution as a CLG that says, we want to review our own state designated building, or our own local designated building. We say it's historic. We want to give them are you considered rural here? A rural community by state? So it's 35% of the value of the rehabilitation expenses comes back to you in the form of a tax credit that you can sell often before you even finish the job.
Low interest loans, right?
The low interest loans would come through another organization. I'm not sure how that all looks right now, the Colorado Historical Foundation. They may have some loans. So preservation-friendly policy would kind of push into that, which is really key that the city is on board, and I think they would be here. It just really makes a lot of sense because you have such a well-defined historic downtown that you can do some things like implementing the existing building code, which in 2015, they moved all the language of historic buildings into the existing building code. So the IBC is no longer the building code for anything existing once you've adopted the 2015. Developing incentives. Okay. This is Oklahoma, where I worked for several years, and this is a facade squad. These are local volunteers. The city would provide a roll-off, and on Saturdays, these fathers and sons often, they had a waiver. This is an actual document, and I can send it to you if you guys are ever interested in Adventures of the Facade Squad. And they had, it was essentially a Main Street work plan. They talked about how the Facade Squad came about, how it worked, even had the waiver in the back, who was responsible for the porta potty and such, and like who to call. I mean, it's pretty cool, and they made it so that it could be shared. Although you can't really find it online, I don't think. These were just guys that they determined they had a lot of these horrible mansard roofs and covered up. See the red building a few down, the transom windows are boarded over. They wanted to expose some of those intricate, they probably have lowered ceilings too, which is hilarious if it's a two-story building, but often that energy efficiency. But you can see that the windows were in still good shape behind that awning that they're taking off. And just, those are so out of proportion and so heavy, and they start to make it into a different place than what it was supposed to be originally. So that was about your volunteers, which is on. I mean, I can talk on and on about that. I have a good feeling about you guys, though. Like, there's this many of you guys at the second meeting. I can only wonder what will start happening around here. This is just to show you in 2017 kind of the reinvestment statistics. So the neat, I wish I could read that better because I'm still a little bit lost in how these graphs work. But essentially, if you look at the total investment, which was $109 million in just Main Street communities, and these are just our official communities that report. Like, one of your only jobs as a Main Street community is report on volunteer hours, net reinvestment money spent in the defined area, and something else. It looks like 2 or 3 metrics. So, but if you'll notice that it's like 26-1, right? Is that right? I think that is actually the ratio, like nationally, that for every $1 spent of private money, $26 is reinvested into the local economy. So it's pretty mind-blowing, and that's on our website too, and it'd probably be a lot easier to explain than me because I'm not a numbers person. So again, this was just last year. There was 111 new businesses and 163 building facade rehabs. There was 259 events. 209,000 people attended those events. It's almost 1,000 people an event. There were 19,000 individual volunteer hours, like you guys going out on a Saturday and doing something, or after work, or before work even. And then if you value all that, it's $468,000. I mean, you can do a lot with a little bit of help. Okay, so how are we doing on understanding a little bit about the program? Like
It's a lot.
there is a lot of,
I just, honestly, what I'm thinking of, and I'm sorry, I'm just talking, but I'm trying to figure out how to engage this youth, the high schools, the business, the government, like all of it. And then, like you said, Massachusetts is a gold mine. Like, so Erie, they're not on your map but they've done a great job of revitalizing and they do a lot of, they get a lot of funding. They shut off their main on Friday once a month. Anyways, I went and talked to a bunch of business owners there and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do this. But this is kind of this with the format, with funding, where you give half, we give half. There's other things that I'm aware of that might be able to give some money that I'm like, oh, there's a great project. So it's overwhelming, honestly, right now my mind's like, but God, it's a great opportunity. That's all
So
I
being
have to
part of
say.
the program, so like there are high schools that I know of, and there's 3 or 4 in Oklahoma that had junior Main Street programs, and they were like a work to serve program, and like they'd
So much
have
learning
business
and
competitions as a class, and they'd get a pop up the next summer and run their shop. And it just, like, there's so many cool things that you can do with youth, and like there's one Altus, Oklahoma, where there's an Air Force base in Southwest. They had the alley cats, and they'd go help pick up trash during the last hour of school, like once a week or something. You know, it just and it's because they need public service hours a lot of times. Boy Scouts obviously always are helping you know, things like that. Sure.
But no, this is an amazing opportunity.
But you can do that because you're supporting, it's like a community organization, and I really think it's the one place in town that everybody can get behind and really just shed all the personas and everything, because everybody watched stuff as a parade as a kid. You know?
Why did you get involved? What caused you to do
Oh, that's good. How long? You said till
this?
10
Like,
till
what
10
draws
o'clock?
you? That it brings the community together and financially is a viability, but also is an emotionally viability. I mean, like, what draws you to
I grew up in a town this size, and my dad was an attorney. He worked within a stone's throw of the courthouse, but he had bought an old Spanish revival. This is southeast Oklahoma, here in the Arkansas River Valley. And I would go after school and help, and it just was where we were. But he actually completely renovated the whole building. It was really nice. And it's still that way today. He's no longer here, but it's people in the downtown has done better and better, but it had to crawl out of the 80s like everything else, just barely making it with all the strip centers. And I think we had like the 5th Walmart in the country in Poto, where I'm from, and just like all these, so we definitely saw it, but it's actually at a high point that it's been since 1925. So it's pretty cool. So I guess I just kind of had that in my blood, but then I went to school, in architecture school, and I got out and I was working at a big firm. I'm like, oh, this is, then the downturn happened, like 08, 09, and I was like an out-of-work intern architect. And it was really a tough place to be. And it took a couple more years to climb out, and I was just doing whatever I could. And I saw a posting on the AIA website, and it was a posting for the Main Street architect job. The guy that had been there for 24 years and essentially started it in Oklahoma was stepping away and working, and he wanted to go to work and start a program at the University of Oklahoma called the Institute for Quality Communities, and they do some incredible stuff. Anyway, he mentored me for a while. I ended up with the job somehow, and it just kind of was who I was. I think I figured that out as I did the job, that I just really loved working with people and communities. And honestly, through Providence, this is like the 2nd state that I've worked in. And like, I've always wanted to live here in Colorado. I worked in Estes a couple summers, and so moved my family here at the beginning of the year.
I can help with that.
Okay, so I need to run through the actual part about the program. This is like, I've given you a little bit of background, probably a little bit more about historic preservation than you would normally get in this kind of a 101 presentation, but I really feel like it's like half of the program. Not that you have to be like a perfect preservationist, because that's not what it is. It's about making do with what you have and then making sensitive upgrades when you can. So we're done with that. But let's go through the transformational strategies. And this is kind of about really the program itself, kind of the guts of it. And so there's 4 points to the Main Street program, not just design, which is what I'm spending most of my time in, but there's economic vitality, economic development is another way to say that, design, promotion, and organization. And together, if those have, it has just worked for years and years, but they've redone this in such a way that they've tried to show how they're more closely intertwined. Instead of it being like this silo approach where we had a committee that was design and a committee that was organization, and we all met in our own little places, and then every now and then we might talk. It's really about this being the core group and having projects based in these different, and I'm not even going to call them silos, they're just different work areas. Maybe you're not going to do anything this year in an organization because you're already there, right? I'm not saying you are, but you kind of put the focus on what needs to happen for the community's overall transformation strategy to occur. so just a little bit more organization is kind of like brings the community together. It's gathering funding, people, and I guess it instills a sense of ownership. Design is more about working with property and business owners to make downtown something special, which it really was at one time. Lots of signs and flags and things going on, and it's just kind of gotten dulled down over the years. So that's a sense of, I think, authenticity is what that one, if it doesn't say that, it should say that, or sense of place is another one. Econ or EV, you work with business and property owners, that's where I'm probably the weakest. We should be hiring somebody that has those strengths, but sense of vitality. Like we can go here and we can have a business and we can do well, and it's the place to be. When you're in Berthoud, and we want you to have that. Like we want you guys to be the center of town, like you should be, the heart of town. Also, promotion. It's about getting the word out. It's easier today than it ever has been, but it's also harder than it ever has been because there's things to learn. So we can kind of help with that. I actually probably split that point, and with Facebook and those kinds of things. And so actually just sharing about who you are out there, and we even help on that on the big statewide scale, giving everybody kind of a better look at who they. A cool way to rebrand for a while, maybe, if that's all it is. So what a transformational strategy is, the thing that ties it all together, or is that center unifying idea, are the things that you need to define for yourselves. And it's something that you can do, and we can help you do that. We have facilitators, and we can come and do that specifically. But so you'll start with some type of a strategic plan, like the mission and vision stuff. We have people that do that. And then you'll come out with that with like, this is kind of who we are today. This is what we need to do. And then you'll develop subsequent work plans based on the strategy or strategies that you think is going to be most effective. And I wish I could, okay, so this one's, there could be a health and wellness strategy, and I think you have to click them twice on these.
Is that Lions? Where is
I
that?
think so. I didn't do these slides right here, so I don't know. But
Okay.
I'll tell you if I do know. Okay, click it. And so focus on developing a healthy community. And these are kind of like the pre-made. Actually, these might be national ones because there are these on the National Main Street website. There are these kind of pre-made. Like check this out and see if you get it. Kind of transformational strategies. This one's out on health and wellness as a strategy for your downtown, like kind of becoming that place. Okay, a couple more clicks. So family friendly and family serving. Is that something you identify with? So those are the kind of questions to ask. Okay, a couple more. So entertaining and nightlife. Maybe you have sections of downtown where that actually could do this. These functions could happen simultaneously at different times, too. So, okay, a couple more. This one's arts and culture. A lot of towns find that they do have artists that enjoy these spaces. Was it Jane Jacobs? What was her quote? She's the one that wrote The Life and Death of the Great American City or something like that. Famous planning book. And something up to the effect of old spaces need new uses. But new spaces, it's one of those things that works backwards and forwards. But the life and death of the Great American City. All right, so a couple more clicks. Agricultural economy. So, focusing on your history, which I think that's a little bit you guys, and I thought about that as I was putting these together. So a couple more. That one's in there twice, sorry. Oh wow, did I do them both? Okay, sorry. I guess I really wanted to hammer these ones, huh? A couple more, sorry. Yeah, okay, there's the weed killer.
There we go.
Okay, so brush as an example, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier. And you guys have modeled brush in the past, like Mita has gone. You went to brush whenever they were working on the theater that just reopened this last year.
Downtown design, lighting design.
Lighting design, cool, very cool, and that's how you can totally. And that was just through the network when you guys were on Main Street here before that you kind of joined with them to give them your expertise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were an older Main Street organization, so they came to us to ask lots of questions. So Eric and I went there several times to help them with their Main Street design.
Very cool. Now that kind of mentorship is super
Yeah.
amazing. That's That is really what makes us who we are. There, you know, in other organizations like, you know, the Motor Trend and all those, they have the R&D, you know, but in Main Street we call it rip off and duplicate, not research and develop. Because it's like, hey, well, they're doing that. Let's try it. Don't tell anybody. And actually, that is how, with 2,000 some odd programs across the country, when you tie into the national, and now they have this thing called The Point, which I can't even keep up. It's like a list, it's like a big forum with bunches of topics going on in the snack. I get an update every day with like formal conversations going on. Here's one about what do you do with vacant property? Here's one about, I mean, I'm just thinking of ones, when you do an event on Facebook, what's the best way to set up an ad? You know, I mean, there's just like a million things that Main Street managers across the country and board members are talking about. So I'm a little bit lost here because I'm drinking through a fire hose too. In Brush, here's some examples of how they've taken their agricultural identity and they've cast that across the 4 points to really form who they are around that identity or that strategy. So a walking tour with markers, farm to table fundraising dinner. That's kind of cool. A sugar beet bowling. That sounds kind of fun. I would actually like to try that.
And their football team was the beef diggers, right?
Yeah, the beet diggers. They put the beet down. And a community on Mercantile. I don't know if that's gotten done yet, but there's long-term and short-term goals. Okay, next slide. And yeah.
Those are your 4 pillars: design, promotion, economic vitality, and organization.
Yes.
So those are your 4 pillars when you design.
Or they're just 4 things. They're just 4 components to this one thing. It's easy to start thinking about it as that they're in their own baskets, but honestly,
If they work together,
they do.
They get structured. No, they're pillars.
Like the sugar beet
Yeah.
bowling thing,
Yeah.
that could be like it's going to be not only promotion, but maybe you have to maybe you're going to work on a new pocket park space. It's in a vacant lot, and you're going to beautify it at the same. So I mean, they really.
Yeah.
And the more we hit, the more different more components you hit with any one work plan or strategy, the better it's going to be. Because it's going to get more people in, and it's going to just be a tighter knit thing when it's done. You know, I've only been there during work days. Like, and Melody is the new chamber director, Main Street manager. I've been to a board and an HP meeting. But I think they need retail just as bad as anybody. I mean, I don't know about how many volunteers they get, but they've got a pretty healthy group. Okay. It is a tight knit community. It really is. Like there's a lot of rivalry out there between Sterling and Brush, and you've got the whole, and that's cool. Yes.
Okay, it's called Main Street, but I mean, what about the owners of businesses that are on South Merced? How are they going to respond to a program called Main Street? They're not on Main Street. They're not giving.
Well, we identify our boundaries ourselves,
But it's
so.
called Main Street. And
Well,
that's what it's called Main Street.
It's actually, they rebranded it as Main Street America is the trademark name now. Not every town has a Main Street, literally, like named, but also it's really, what it is it's the historic commercial district of the original town site. So it's the area that is tied to historic Berthoud.
So where is that?
We can decide what we want that to be. They cannot tell us what we decide, so we can,
Yeah.
as a group, can decide what
The
we
rail
decide.
corridor
I mean, I
could be
know
part of
that
it.
it's on Second Street, so that's, like, we will, as a group, define what we want to consider as our Main Street area.
It's called Main Street. That's my concern. I don't think that's appropriate.
So it's a good question, right? So we already have a historical path. So there's a lot of things that this bill has. So obviously it sounds like we're building out for the historical map. Then you're gonna define the district, and what that district, it may be Main Street, it may be 6 blocks from Main Street, 4 blocks. But basically,
Typically it's
you're putting
commercial.
together
It's not
a
usually
road.
residential is one thing because it's all about commercial activity. But where I would, the only bit of argument I have of why you wouldn't say incorporate a fairly new developed industrial park or a brand new strip center, which you actually can. I think Wellington is redrawing their boundary to incorporate with some newer areas because those property owners are identifying and they're related to the same goals of the traditional downtown. So it's not that you can't have that boundary for your local program. Your local program is what decides that, but so really the boundary is just the boundary. But historic preservation, if somebody, my service as the preservation architect, I won't have much to say about an industrial building. No consequence. I mean, sorry, you're not going to blow a whole building, but your business wouldn't want to prosper the program that actually did operate in these areas because this area has certain challenges. Old buildings are different than new buildings, and they need certain provisions that are either legal or for the city to help them accomplish goals. Because it used to be horse and buggies, and then we got concrete roads and things like that. Well, it's like the planning and everything kind of has to. There are just different challenges, I think, for a historic district. It's why there's different. It's why the program was developed so we wouldn't lose them back in the 80s.
John had like an idea on some of the streets, like back when we first started talking about like Second Street, First Street, some of those that are off campus streets. Like, what are some ways to make some of those more industrial streets more visually appealing? So would that be something we would, as an organization, people would? That's why we need people, because like what's important to you? Like, and what we see is like we want to look at Massachusetts first and low light, keep it low light so we don't turn into Fort Collins or Highway 34, where the light, we can't see the stars anymore when you're in town. So it's kind of things that we as a group find important for us in Berthoud and what we love. And I've said this to John back, it's not just visually, but it's like connecting with people the right way. So I've raised 4 kids in this town, and here we didn't come from a small town. We came from suburbs, but when we got here, I was like, I didn't understand, you'll attest to this, the whole idea of like what Berthoud was about and the Mayberry feel and the look and the way we have a lot of new people in town, and it's not a bad thing. But I didn't know how Berthoud, like just keeping the newcomers to town to understand what's so cool about here, visually and emotionally and business-wise. And
Yeah, and you can set your goals to align with like the chambers.
Right.
And like, there's no reason, that's why there's a lot of chamber main streets, but it is really about business development, and often the downtown has like a lot of vacant spaces. I mean, that might be the case here. I think you guys are certainly fortunate in that. But I mean, when people say, like on the news, when they say, when they talk about Main Street on economics, I just think of the old part of town because that's just the way I'm wired,
So may I ask, so it's Main Street program is main, but it's like a tree, it's the center, and then there's branches, they weren't related, sort of, I mean.
If you think about traditional development, that would be true.
Yeah, but I want to go back to what she's worried about, so we can understand it. It's like, for me, why I love working with very connected communities, again, connected, but I mean, visually with streets, whatever. And so I'm trying to, I want to understand what
It's not involving the people who are not located on Main Street involved in this program.
Oh,
By
that's-
saying Main Street, it's not identifying.
But you don't have to call it
those
Main
people.
Street. You don't have to be Berthoud Main Street. You can call, actually, there's all kinds of different.
Downtown district.
You can call it whatever. If it's in
I think the word
I don't think I'd let that be a
district
problem.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just, he's
I
not,
just-
that's
I mean,
the.
This is the name of the national.
business owners are here that aren't on those.
Yeah. Where are you? What's pleasing to you? What are you on?
I have a business on Main Street, not the one that's.
Right, and you're saying what, the way the.
I don't know.
Where are you though?
Yeah.
You see, you don't even know where I am.
We're east of the tracks.
We're east of the tracks,
But
we're
so
away
here's the
from
thing,
the
is
bulk
this
of.
program is to
of the-
put you in that group because we can develop it in a way that it's,
I'd
like
like
when
to-
I walk through town, there's areas that it would be more appealing to me.
Do you go east of
Walking
Main
by
Street?
your shopping.
You
is-
go
is
to
fun.
east of Main Street, most people
I
stop
walk
at the track.
I walk all over, actually. I walk the back streets, I walk side streets, I walk Main Street.
Yeah, I walk Welch all the way
You know,
down.
so
Yeah.
it's,
So.
there's areas that you got, there's businesses back here that we don't know about.
Yeah.
We
There's
want
a lot
to
of
encompass them
industrial.
in this group.
Well,
We want them to be part of the group. We don't want them to be like,
Right, so I'm
just
just
because we
thinking-
have a place on Main Street, we don't want you to be left out.
And it's the one organization in the community that you can volunteer in and make a difference and like help with an event that is a special thing for the whole community. You know, that's like, you know what I mean? And
Maybe not thinking of it as Main Street, but as the main area of the community.
Well, not even that.
Instead of-
I think it's the
District.
people, really. It's
Yeah.
like, it's you guys that are here right now. It's not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is the town of Berthoud itself, like the city hall, is it separate then? Do you have input to them as the director of this organization? You go to meetings and give them your vision of what we're doing?
I mean,
How does that work?
yeah, we're all
we-
learning,
It's
so
our vision,
that's.
basically.
So the city would essentially have a memorandum of understanding with us at the state that would say, we are going to have a Main Street program and we are willing to partially fund this program to incentivize development of this program in Berkeley.
And there's some people that are on the town board that want to be involved as far as like volunteer people, and I don't know that we're necessarily calling it a board at this point, but, I know.
Would you have a seat or a presence at town meetings? And when they're talking about future development
Well,
of
like-
this area, like all the new stuff that's going in on the west side of Katy.
I think that's just the planning commission.
Yeah,
I think
that's
this is,
just
this is,
planning
this
commission.
is,
So
this is
you
like a
wouldn't be
nonprofit,
Yeah.
or this is just a group that you can, that is supported by volunteers and a little bit from the city and a little bit from the state. And that's how it works, but mainly it's the volunteer support that makes it actually a program.
Yeah, it's not just for business.
It's not for business, it's not
Volunteer.
to
It's
get-
like anyone can come along, feel like there's somewhere they can lend a helping hand, have a voice of like somewhere they want to beautify. It's
Well,
not
there's-
necessarily business owner directed.
Potential incentives could expand to whatever district boundaries you have, and whatever you establish is like, hey, we want to have a facade grant like Windsor. But Windsor has a DDA boundary, and it's called a DDA. It's not, but it's actually the same boundaries they've identified as their historic district. But it does have some weird legs to it if you actually look at the map.
Great architecture in town, we've got architectural homes and.
But homes are not commercial
They're not,
businesses.
so this is just strictly.
It's for commercial, yeah, it's commercial district.
Buildings being used for business.
Yep, it's the same. So definitely check out the National Main Street website, because they're doing this like, I mean, the whole country. I mean, there's 2,000 towns or so.
Larry, could you please describe to the audience what the procedure will be for us to, first of all, qualify in December for consideration as a Main Street community, and then to work through the 3 stages of a community's affiliation to a fully graduated program?
That's
Is
so
it educational and program
there's
objectives?
a lot there. So yeah, a lot of it is that you have a set up with the city to establish the organization, and then I wish I could tell you all the steps, and there's a lot of them there, John. So like you have to, and I don't make it sound overwhelming. They build on each other. So you have a working board, people that are interested in the program and want to do the work, because it's not really on Karen to do like all the day-to-days of this thing. She just kind of coordinates. But then beyond that, then it's like starting to establish your mission and vision, and actually your organizational health and well-being and structure, and it is supposed to be an inclusive thing. It's supposed to be for anyone in the community. But if you want to get like down to the specifics on that, just go to our website and look at the program manual, because it has like everything. You should definitely look at it. Anybody that's interested. And it'll
Yeah.
even tell you a lot too. I mean, it actually talk about how the program would operate
Is
in
that
any of our
website
towns.
just Main Street? What's the website?
Program, you just Google Colorado Main Street, you'll find
Okay.
it. And it's on the department. It's a government website. It looks just like most of the city websites in the state, but it has some really cool resources. And one of them is the program manual. Okay, so I don't want to hold you guys too late.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Um,
We do have a time limit here in film.
So this is kind of, again, just showing how that all works. All these things really go to help you meet your transformational strategy of if you want to develop more of an agricultural-based identity and you want to have events themed around that. I mean, so it's not really that you just have to become this thing. There could be multiple ones of these. I'm not saying that's it for you. Maybe it's, who knows what it could be. Okay, next slide.
This is an example from Brush. This is just kind of an excerpt from work plan, typically showing, well, there's going to be a rodeo. They're going to partner with the chamber to provide some additional thing for this public event. Maybe they're going to sell water as a fundraiser too. I mean, so there's like ways to do things to help and, you know, profit the organization.
Do you provide that matrix? You give them that structure? Or that's from them?
That's from them.
Okay.
And you guys would develop your total, I mean, we might have like a kind of a go-by, something like this. I think it's in the program manual.
R&D.
Right, exactly. Okay, next one.
I'll be part of R&D. That sounds like fun.
So not everybody has exactly a main street, and often there are multiple streets that are part of this district that is recognized as a, the first place is here for commercial development, and then also like the vision for where that would be going now. And is what you would define in your own strategic plan. Like, we're not here to tell you, no, you can only have these blocks because the average, that's how it was in Oklahoma. There had to be a capacity of at least 50% historic buildings in the net area. But it's not that way in Colorado.
Longmont has like a downtown district, but and there's like, if you're not part of that exact thing, whether you're just one block east or west, you can't be involved in their stuff.
Oh, a bid?
So, yeah, exactly. So the nice thing is that everybody can be involved in this, more so than just,
Yeah, I think that's probably
Yeah.
true. I mean, that's actually, because you're right, because like if you're part of a tax increment district or a BID or a DDA, they all have these people get $20,000 for their storefront, but you can't. Or like, you know, there's like not a flexibility.
well, I've done it like for my thing, I tried to, when I worked for a bigger company in Longmont, I went and tried to like do stuff downtown for our marketing, and they wouldn't allow us to, because we weren't located in that area.
Huh.
So there is things like that, but
That's
it's nice
because they're a
that,
DDA, though. So they have the rules in place.
Well, but it's taking additional tax to be in the bid.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how Oklahoma City was rigged, and they
Yeah.
got certain benefits in those districts.
Oh, yeah, and they
There was
did,
two
but
or
we
three
couldn't.
Main Street districts in Oklahoma City, anyway. So, yeah, it's just, I guess after the discourse, thinking about it as it's just a group of people that are trying to make the
This
physical
area.
identity of the main area of town into a better place. Okay, next one. So here's where that website is. It's colorado.gov, DOLA Main Street, something like that. It's easier just to Google it. The National Main Street Center, again, just Google National, or just Google Main Street America or National Main Street Center. Also, we have a Facebook page. We just got over 1,000 likes last week, so like us, and we'd like to get everyone. Were you? All right. I was really proud of that. Twitter, DOLA, our parent organization, has a Twitter feed that actually they push all our stuff, and they have Facebook too and all that. We're trying to be much more engaged. I could not get very many good pictures, so I might rely on Karen to send me some good pictures, or John tomorrow, so I can post some pictures of today, like some cool things. You know, I got a picture of the mural, but it was, John had his headlights on it. Yeah, so I usually post whenever I'm in a community.
Do you wave?
I usually post whenever I visit, and then what it does, at least on our page with 1,000 followers, is all. San Luis just became an affiliate like 2 weeks ago. We accepted them as an affiliate community, which is kind of the first level. I don't know what happened with that Facebook post. It was no different than any of the others. It's been shared like over 99 times or something. It's ridiculous. It was just one of those perfect storms. I can't believe it. Like, it shows like our engagement just went like this. And now, of course, it's going to do that. But, so anyway, we can try to help you with that stuff.
What is DOLA?
That's DOLA. It's the Department of Local Affairs.
Okay.
And we're basically the only state organization that people like to see coming, from what I've heard, in your local government, because we have money, and that's essentially what we do, is we provide funding to communities for projects. Like all this streetscape stuff, it didn't come from Main Street. Main Street's just the sort of, we just don't think you guys run this organization, right? They have like some serious money that they can give the community, the
DOLA is
municipality.
good.
Yeah, DOLA's good.
Thumbs up. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so next one. Just some pictures around the state, Antler Alley in Woodland Park, little bus and lions, you know, some flower pots, and I think that was in
Louisville, which they aren't a Main Street district, they ought to be. This Place Matters and a window in Leadville, they started their own thing. You know, the Shop Small Saturday, they have a shop in Leadville. They just rebranded the American Express stuff. And it's coming up, you know, day after Thanksgiving, or day before Thanksgiving. Is that right?
Saturday after
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
it's the day, yeah, the Saturday after.
Here you go. Like we just
But
did
just
this.
inviting
Come on, let's just do
vibrancy,
it.
you know, having fun. That's what this is mainly about. Like when you have a sock store like downtown Arvada, you think that they've probably somehow made it. They were a Main Street. They decided to go off on their own. It's the way they wanted to do things. They have a good, strong historic preservation ethic. But I mean, when you have a sock store, I think that's the level of granularity that you've got a really thriving economy. If you can support that. Yeah. It's pretty. They do that, and then you have good old Golden, which is right about where I live, and you're like, oh, when you see what they're doing to some of their old buildings, it just breaks your heart. Yeah. When I looked at it with those eyes, I was just, man. Okay, so next one. So questions. I mean, it's a very big, comprehensive program. It's not something you guys will get overnight, master, find champions for, but we are here to help. And the truth is, it's probably been done somewhere. There's probably been the same trouble, probably been the same solution. So, you know.
As we close down tonight and pick a board of directors or a steering committee, what would you recommend that each member of that committee focus on as a specialty or as an area of responsibility so that Karen doesn't have to be running ragged to get those things done?
You know, I think it's not that, and this is not, I'm not the original, Gail, our coordinator, but she's in Leadville tonight. They have a year interview tomorrow. So she couldn't be here tonight, but, and I'm just trying to think how she would probably think. I don't really know. I don't know if you might want to maybe just identify a number of those people tonight and even put it out for public as a small side on the newspaper or something for a while, or on the chamber website looking
Do you
for.
think that first thing that comes up in
Yeah.
the committee would be that they need to decide on
One of the 4
was it that you
points.
put it- well, the 4 points, but an identity, like what's the identity? Is that something we
You're
need
not
to
going to
do?
figure that out like as just an item. I mean, you
Yeah.
might nail it, but the chances of so everything needs to have this really hilarious slide that has these people raging in a party and street party on one side, and this older gentleman sitting on a bench by himself, and it's like that. You need to be all things to all people in this area because it is essentially a zero lot line, and it's all the public space. I mean, that's what you think about. It needs, and that's not real. And your organization needs to be organized. And you have to listen more than talk sometimes, which is hard. And you have to, and so it's not that everything needs to be a big planning process, but I think just to get started would be every person that's interested should be accountable to review the Main Street websites, the state website, our website, and the National Main Street website, and find at least 2 good things that you totally thought were cool and there would be neat things for here. And then come together in a few weeks, a couple weeks, in a setting similar to this, and talk about it.
May I ask, is the object to get to the next level of, I mean, because I just walked in this meeting. I don't know if your object is to get funding and to like, or need to step, you know, there's those 3 steps. Like, I don't know the next step to get to be, like, do we need $10,000?
Well, we- Yeah.
I don't know the whole big picture. What is your?
On December 7th, as I understand it, on December 7th in Denver, our application to become a Main Street organization and a recognized community will begin. But that's not even assured.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure because we're down a staff member right now.
Yeah.
We're not actually sure if we're going to have that meeting in December. Like, I think it was Gail's opinion, and she has a better feeling than I do, that you guys should, you know, You are an affiliate, right? Or did you sign up on, did you click the link on the website and just say, we want to be an affiliate and get on the
I
mailing?
went on that to click on it, but it said, did you submit your letters and stuff?
Oh yeah, there is just a
So I
letter of
have the
support.
letters that we have to submit, and we were not really clear on, we just send those to you?
Just email them.
Yeah,
or
so we
whatever.
wouldn't do that first and then finish that.
I would do that first, and that does not mean that like we're stagnating the process. I think literally that the process is there, and then we want to help you get to the next, get to a good successful application. And we even have some potential contractor money that's available that we could spend to get someone in to help facilitate the kind of vision and mission stuff that maybe you'd want to include in your candidate application and make it even stronger, like even before you applied, which I think maybe would be February. I think's when that would
She
be.
did say that in an email to us, something about February.
That would, I think that'd be more ideal, because just going, just kind of barreling into it without like really meeting all the prerequisites very well in the candidate, which is all in the program manual on our website. You go to program manual and it has all the steps. That would really set you guys up to really, you know, establish home plate and say, this is kind of, we have identified some folks that were interested. And I'd make it a public, I'd reach out to the public and say, who's interested in this organization? You know, does anybody really have a heart for historic preservation and community events? Just list out maybe some things from the 4 points and see what kind of buy-in you can get from people that want to be involved. They can be
John, are you approaching like a project management perspective?
Right. I'll be the president of the steering committee, but I'm not going to be here for a period of time. So the best I can do would be to be in touch with people by email to find out if the area of responsibility that they were most interested in pursuing is developing into a basis of information, not only for Karen, but for our feedback to the Colorado program, that we found county money, we found other programs, we're finding support to substantiate a budget that we can build forward with for things like the website, the maintenance, the programs, which by next spring should be evident to the community.
And I think we have money for a website. So I mean, so that's what I'm saying. So like, just
Okay.
like, trust me on the start slow, build the big snowball
Yeah.
of support.
Tonight, I'd like to see members of the community that's come, including those of you who were involved in previous efforts of Main Street, who know the pitfalls, who know how this thing works in a community, to at least identify yourselves with emails and phone numbers so that Karen and myself can be in touch with you. You know, I think it's unrealistic to expect that through the holidays there's going to be a lot of progress or attendance by anyone, because we're all being drawn in so many directions. But going into January and certainly into February, when I'll be back full on in Berthoud, by then as we go into good weather in spring and we can be out mobile going door to door without having the winter weather as a factor, I think we'll be very successful. My main concern is that we meet your objectives in Denver to move forward and be recognized sooner than later.
No, I think that being an affiliate community is a pretty low point of entry. Like it's not hard to get started that way and be recognized, and then actually begin receiving like a monthly update that I send out right now. And then
That'd be good.
there are things that are geared specifically for where you're at. Like you're not ready to apply right now, but you will be very soon.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I feel about it.
Good.
Not that you're not ready, but it's like this is the first time we visited, and we don't really offer. Like you're right, there is a benefit to being like recognized as a candidate program, because then you can call Larry anytime you want and have him come up and look at somebody's building and give them advice, do a drawing or whatever. I mean, so and that's just one of the things. But
As an affiliate?
no, not as an affiliate. So I'm going to get off on the state highway and I'm going to try to see it in town. And when I go somewhere, I almost always get directions to the downtown, because that's the place that I'm going to see locals. That's the place I'm going to see the history and all that. And so essentially solidifying that and making it stronger and more you and who Berthoud is, even before you moved here, like figuring out who that was and like what happened along the way that made things not quite right. Those are the things that you'll start to unlock. And when you find things with your cultural identity here, the people that develop the town and the people that have already gone ahead of us, then you can actually
build upon that to make it even better for the next generation. That is really Main Street. It's not incentives or structure or organization. It's really just about this place that people think of when they close their eyes and say Berthoud, which may be different for other people, but I don't know. That's just how I see what you're trying to foster is like making things better.
I think it's important that since we have all these individuals who feel strongly about Berthoud, to reach out to them and see if they're interested, because otherwise they're going to be doing things again outside of the Main Street group. And you're reinventing the wheel because those things are already being done by individuals.
Oh no, that's a good point. I think that they should probably definitely be something that, I think Karen, that would be her position, would be that she would help working with all the local organizations and the people that are in public service and seeing how maybe she can benefit them through her volunteers. And then what happens is you develop more community through mutual sharing. Like the farm to table thing's brilliant, but what if there was this amazing farmer's market that's been out on the highway for 10 years, but wouldn't it be cool if the city gave them a space to put it right downtown and you could do the traffic counts and it made more sense and like put 3 and 2 together and you sometimes you do 12 or you know.
Well, we have a and so that, is there other events where a lot of people individually doing them?
Yeah.
So, because I know, because I'm always requested to donate.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Yes.
Amazing.
I have a question. Do we have to start from scratch again?